Hi, and welcome to another lesson of the Excel for Absolute Beginners course. This happens to be chapter 4 of the course, and in chapter 4 we are talking about formulas and functions in Excel, and I must add that formulas are the meat of spreadsheet applications, and without them you are going to have little to do with your spreadsheet application. What I mean by that is these formulas or functions that we are going to be looking at help us do a lot of analysis or analytical operations on the spreadsheet or the data that we present in these form of applications. So in this particular lesson, which is the first lesson, the lesson 19 of the course, we are going to learn how to create formulas in Excel. Example of the things that we'll be looking at include mathematical operators, numerical value sorters, cell references, inbuilt functions in Excel, and how all of these things can be put together to form a formula. Here's a sample spreadsheet that we are going to use to illustrate all of these elements that come together to form a formula. So the first thing I want to talk about is cell references, which are very important. And if you have watched the previous lessons, I've already spoken about them. And the first thing that I want you to be aware of is that every cell in Excel is given a name, okay? And the name is what we are using to we are calling a cell reference. And usually when you select a cell by just clicking in it, the name box here shows you the name of the cell or the reference of the cell. This is A3, meaning I can use A3 anywhere to do an operation. Okay, so the first thing you need to know about formulas is anytime you want to create a formula, you have to select the cell in which you want your output to be displayed in. A formula basically is any kind of operation that takes in input and gives you an output. For that matter, we need a cell in which we are going to display the output. So for example, if I want to perform an operation or using a function and I want to display the outcome in this particular cell that I have selected, and the name or the reference for this particular cell is H2, as you can see here. H2 because we have the column H selected and it's on row 2, so H2. And to bring up a formula, the very first and compulsory part is to write an equal to sign. Tell Excel that it is a formula. Anytime Excel recognizes equal to beginning of any text that is input in a cell, then it knows that this is a formula. Okay, so you always have to introduce your equal to sign. Then what else are we going to do? So for instance, we can use mathematical operators like plus and multiplication. Let's go ahead and do that one first before I even come. Let's assume we want to just add these two numbers, 25 and 30. If I want to add 25 and 30 and I want to use a formula to do that, I can go ahead and say equal to, then I type in 25, then the operator, which is plus 30. Once I've entered 25 plus 30, Excel knows that this is a formula that I want to use. So go ahead and click enter and it has provided you with that answer. See the difference. If I don't add the equal to sign before and I leave it 25 plus 30, Excel takes it as 25 plus 30 and it takes it as just text, not a formula. But over here, when I started with equal to 25 plus 30, it automatically calculates and gives me the value for that particular one that I entered. Okay, so that is how to generate a formula in Excel. If I want to find the product of 25 and 30, I can go ahead and say equal to 25 then times 30. And that will give me the value. If I made a mistake of not adding the equal to sign, and go ahead and type this, Excel will treat them as a string or a text and not do the operation that I want. So that is very peculiar or very important in Excel. You need to introduce the equal to sign before every formula. Then the next important thing is the cell references, as I was talking about. And if you pay attention, when we select this, we actually entered the values 25 plus 30. However, 25 and 30 had already been listed in the cell. Yes, this is cell A2 and cell B2 already contains the figures 20, 5 and 30. So instead of going ahead to type it by ourselves, imagine if you have a lot of data that you have to find the sum of each of them. Also makes this easier for us, and how we can do that is using the reference cell, the reference or the cell references. So this is A2 as I've written here, and this is B2. Okay, so I'm just letting you know that these two are the reference cells that we are going to work with. That's A2 and B2. And how we are going to do that, if you want to find the sum of A2 and B2, in fact, all these things that we are doing right now, they are most appropriate ways to go about it, and that's not what we are interested in right now. At the moment, I want you to appreciate how to create a formula, and subsequently in the subsequent lessons we will look at the most appropriate ways to use some of these things. All right, let's go on. So to use cell references in a formula, we can go start with our equal to, which is required. Then instead of going to type in 25 this time around, we can come and select this value, and it tells you that this is cell A2. Okay, then use the mathematical operator, that is plus, for the addition. Then I'll go ahead and select this one too. So that tells me that I want to add the value in cell A2 to the value in cell B2. Click enter, and this gives us the same value that we got here. Okay, so just by introducing the references, we are able to do the calculations. The nice thing about Excel is that now I can go ahead and even make changes to this, and it reflects here. So it tells me that the sum is now 60, but unfortunately for this it didn't change because we wrote it manually. For that matter, it can't be updated automatically. So that is how powerful cell references are. Now let's go on to values or tests. So you can see that in here, when I was doing the operation, I used these values, the 25 and 30. And now let's try with tests. So we can have formulas that operate on test too. An example that I want to use here is when you are given a first name and the last name, and you want to create a username by just combining the first name and the last name. How do you go about it? You use a formula by introducing your equal to sign, then the cell name. So we have the very first one, which is, this is A7. So you can go ahead and type in A7, or just select this to pick the cell reference. Then the ampersand sign, which is this. Then you add the next cell, which is the B7. So go ahead and click enter. This is saying that I want a formula that is going to join the value of cell A7, which is test, that's the first name, and B7. So click enter, and that gives you the username that you are looking for. Okay, so here too we can do an operation on the values itself, or the value of the content. So let's assume that this value that we have here, 200, we want to multiply it by 2. We can go ahead and say equal to 200 then times 2. Hit enter, and that gives us the outcome. So this can be done. The next thing, or the next element of formulas in Excel, is built-in functions. So Excel has a lot of built-in functions, which we will dedicate a lesson on to explore all of the most important ones. But for now, all I need you to understand is that in your cell, any formula at all that you are creating, you can use any of these combinations. So you can have mathematical operators in there, cell references in there, values in there, text in there, and you can also have built-in functions in there. So an example of built-in function that we are talking about here is the summation function. So sum, and let's assume, let me change this to 25. If I want to use this function, the sum function, to add up 25 and 30. We are going to explore it later, but basically I can go ahead and type in equal to, don't forget that, equal to sum, then bracket, add this and that, add this, comma, then add this, close my bracket and hit enter, and that gives me the sum using the built-in function sum. So these are the various elements that we can put together to form a formula. And as you can see, so now we can even have a cell containing, let's say, all of these things. Let's say cell reference A2, then the operator times B2 plus the sum of, you get the gist. So we can add all of these elements that we've talked about to form very complex functions, and that is what makes spreadsheets or working with spreadsheets very nice and makes the work easy to go with. And if you learn or master how to use formulas, you are really going to find it easy working around spreadsheets, and you can achieve almost anything at all with spreadsheet. That's why I began by saying that functions and formulas are the meat of spreadsheet applications. I hope you've learned something new from this lesson and you're enjoying the course. If you are yet to watch the previous lesson, do all to watch them to get a better understanding of Excel and how to use it in its entirety. I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye.